So yes, going back to the Republicans now, despite the tension that one can see between sort of a Bannon paleoconservative wing on the one hand, who would be sort of the little guy Trumpist base, and Musk and the big tech guys on the other, and they seem to have the upper hand, at least for the moment, though I don't think Trump can jettison either of these wings. But they seem to be entering into a new project under the guise of Project 2025, which is at this point not only a way of circumventing the state and minimizing the state intervention, but a full-fledged destruction of the administrative state. So where does that come about? What does the Supreme Court, again, and certain type of judicial legalistic schools, what part do they play in this, at least in the beginning of this process of destruction that now seem to have started?
I mean, to begin with your first comment or first question, this split between the paleoconservatives in the tradition of Pat Buchanan, so the economic nationalists and protectionists, the Bannons and the Vances, the Oren Casses and company, versus the paleolibertarians, which, you know, I would say Peter Thiel and Elon Musk and friends. So they're in agreement on the ultra-conservatism, you know, the paleoconservatism. They're in disagreement on the economic politics of nationalism, welfare chauvinism, and libertarianism. I think, you know, Trump calls the shots here. And it's probably to his advantage that there is this kind of friction between his circle of kind of adoptee sons, because it means that he's not overshadowed, and he would never let that happen. And they ultimately can't get rid of him. I mean, Elon Musk cannot do what Trump can do with all his billions. He's just not attractive in the same way. I hate to call Trump attractive, but he doesn't have that kind of black hole attraction that Trump has, I think, that is somehow draws his followers towards him. He has zero charisma, basically, I think. So Musk needs Trump, and Bannon needs Trump, so they ultimately have to accept what he gives them. And he seems to be going down the path of tariffs quite happily now. And what he intends by that is a little unclear. What I would say is that I just backtrack a little bit. When you think of this complete and total alignment that you now have of private equity, hedge funds, and venture capital, at least the elites around Trump, there was the push factor, Biden and Harris moving just a little bit too slightly to the left, too much antitrust law, threatening to tax capital gains. But there was also the pull factor, and that is the fact that there's a part of Silicon Valley that has started to dip its toes in defense contracts. And there's also a push by the Pentagon to start cultivating these alliances with Silicon Valley again. It's a return to what existed, you know, a while back, before the 1990s, when Silicon Valley became a happy Democrat place for Democrats and social liberals. And I think what's happening there is that, one, the Pentagon realizes that, you know, perhaps the battlefield today needs more drones and AI and what have you than it needs aircraft carriers. So they really do need to draw Silicon Valley in. And also, I think for a very long time, it was difficult for Silicon Valley companies to create, to take out defense contracts because they relied so much on export and the global market. And there's always a barrier to dual use technologies. There's export controls. Now we're in a situation where the geopolitical landscape looks very uncertain, and the tectonic plates are shifting very quickly. So I think, you could make a calculation that there will be enough internal markets for defense technologies quite soon. Certainly the Republican Party look like they're going to be deploying intelligence and military technologies against their own population on a grand scale, but certainly against migrants. But also they're becoming very threatening towards their neighbors. And also, we don't know where US hegemony is going. I mean, dollar hegemony as it has existed until now is looking very fragile, much more fragile than it has looked for a long time, thanks, for the most part, to the US's own actions, the economic sanctions, the kind of negligence, letting Iran bomb oil facilities in Saudi Arabia and basically saying, when you become very negligent or outright hostile, as Trump has become to basically all his allies, people start to kind of make contingency arrangements. And so this whole kind of geopolitical landscape is looking extraordinarily fragile. And what may come out of that, we don't know, but it may be a kind of multipolar world. It may be a kind of new Axis alliance. Well, this is what it's looking like with Trump and Russia. Maybe America, Russia, and Israel, these kind of far-right alliances. And this may happen very slowly or maybe happen very quickly. But I think for a lot of these Silicon Valley founders and venture capitalists, it's looking like it's starting to make sense to take out defense contracts. Okay. And that takes me to the question of tariffs. If Trump pursues tariffs and economic nationalism to the degree that someone like Vance and Bannon would recommend, this is going to destroy dollar hegemony in its current form. Okay, you can't have the two things together. Okay, dollar hegemony meant that the US exported its debt, got cheap credit, got cheap consumer imports, but basically couldn't export all that much because its own commodity production is too expensive. So dollar hegemony went hand in hand with deindustrialization. Okay, dollar hegemony in the form that we've come to know it. You can't reindustrialize and maintain the hegemony of the dollar in its current form. Perhaps there's a kind of ignorance about that, but J.D. Vance, for one, has been quite open about the fact, or he's actually argued that dollar hegemony does not work for the ordinary American. Okay, dollar hegemony has destroyed our heartlands. We need to get rid of it. I don't think he wants to get rid of American hegemony. I think he wants to get rid of the kind of hegemony that was based on the kind of US Treasury debt imperialism. So we're looking at this moment where things could change very quickly, where the role of the dollar in international markets could shift very quickly. There might be a lot of turmoil. It might be the end of American hegemony as we know it. But in any case, paleoconservatism can't go very far without destroying American imperialism in its current form. My best guess is that they're looking at another kind of imperialism and another kind of alliance. Whether they'll be able to do that, what exact form it will take, I'm not sure, but we're kind of seeing the lineaments, Putin and Trump, we're seeing things line up.